Good afternoon, everyone. I am Deb Leitner. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer for the Emblem Health family of companies. I'm also the executive sponsor and one of the founders of PRISM, our LGBTQ plus employee resource group here at Emblem Health. Welcome to the 5th annual PRISM Pride Day. It's our Pride Month event. This is, like I said, the 5th year that we've done this. I am thrilled that we're going to be able to offer you an hour full of celebration of the LGBTQ community. It will be informative, it will be touching, and hopefully we'll all share some smiles and laughs in the meantime. I don't want to take up any more of our precious time today. Without any delay, we need to get started with our featured event in today's program. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Emblem Health's Chief Advisor for Family Caregiving and distinguished member of the PRISM Executive Leadership Team, and personally my favorite person to hug, Greg Johnson, who will introduce our very special and amazingly fabulous celebrity guest who's joining us on Pride Day. Greg?
Thank you so much, and welcome everyone welcome to my home. If we can't be together down at the office, it's wonderful to all be together today. Now, I could only think of one possible way for us to begin. Now, I'm not Billy Porter, and I'm not Pray Tell, but I could only hear the opening being, live, work, pose. And here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Nurse Judy, better known as my very dear friend, Sandra Bernhard.
It's a pleasure to be here, Greg. I love the energy in your apartment. It's a real New York time capsule, but fresh as a daisy. So you managed to collect all the memorabilia and the memories and still have it just be light.
That's your
yeah, no, that's a gift.
Well, it's a gift to have you here today because this living room has been blessed to do many pieces of the LGBT history, and today we're adding a very special piece to it. Now, the only thing I'm going to read, and it'll probably be appropriate because a few people will be joining us, but I wanted to share, Sandra had given me this to share with all of you. Sandra Bernhard is an American actress, comedian, singer, and author. She first gained attention in the late 1970s with her stand-up comedy, in which she often critiqued celebrity culture and political figures. Good. We're going to talk about that. Bernhard is best known as portraying Nancy Bartlett on the ABC Roseanne sitcom from the 4th season in 1991 to its end in 1997. And in that show, you portrayed an openly lesbian character, and you were one of the first to do that on a national TV series. Today, we're celebrating her stellar role as Nurse Judy in Pose, and many of us have seen the 3rd and sadly final season, the 3rd season, which I thought had the best writing for you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, they finally caught up.
They caught up, but it was wonderful. So let me begin. That's the only part I wanted to read to you. Sandy's credentials go on for pages, and we're going to be talking about some of that. But we're going to, I think, this afternoon, we're going to be in Pose land for a little while.
Right.
And then I'm going to invite us to take a walk down memory lane.
Wonderful.
And look at the way in which theater and movies and drama have helped the LGBT cause along. Often shocking, often shaking people up, but that's what they need.
Right.
And we're good at that.
Yeah. Hopefully still.
Yes, girl, we'll do that. Now, the filming, how did you get involved in Pose?
Well, it's sort of become part of the folklore of the whole story. I had run into Judith Light, the actress, on a flight from LA back to New York. And on that flight was Stephen Canals, the creator of Pose, along with Our Lady J, who's a wonderful writer, a trans, actor, writer, just a really brilliant person. And I said to them, I said, wow, it's so great to meet you. And if anything ever comes up on Pose, I'd love to do something. And as it turned out, they were just looking to cast Nurse Judy that week. And so they went back to speak with Ryan Murphy, the executive producer. And he said, absolutely, let's cast Sandra in the role. So my managers got a call that week. And I was like, oh my God, you know, so it always pays to let people know that you want to work.
Absolutely.
And, you know, sometimes people think, oh, well, she just doesn't, she likes to do her own thing. But of course, as an actor, you want to be hired to do other people's work where you're not constantly like, you know, creating and writing and, you know, going internally. It's just nice to have a script handed to you and work with other people in an ensemble setting, which is always so, you know, exciting and enriching.
Absolutely. Now, had you worked with any of the cast members previously?
No, I hadn't. I knew Billy Porter, you know, from around the live performing, you know, scene.
Right.
But we had never done anything. And of course, all the trans actresses were all new. I mean, I'd heard about MJ Rodriguez, but I didn't know her, and I have grown to love her. I grew to love everybody on the show.
Well, that comes through very strongly.
Yes, and you know, of course, just jumping ahead a little bit, you know, it covered the AIDS crisis, and as people who lived during that,
yes,
and you know, as a performer and an artist, of course, we all had many creative friends who were felled by the virus, and so we lost a lot of people along the way. So for me to play this role and come full circle in telling the story after having lived through the story, it was sort of like sometimes you weren't quite sure where to look, inward, outward, back, forward. There were so many elements of emotion and memory to that time, and it feels like compressed because it really wasn't that long ago, and yet it is long, you know, it's the 80s and
that's right.
90s, and you know, I mean, I can feel it. It's just so textural and present, and yet you look back and it's like the world has sweeping changes in so many ways as history keeps, you know, marching forward. But it was I had a lot to draw on emotionally for that role, obviously, having been there, watching people just disintegrate before your eyes, literally. I mean, the AIDS ravaged people. There was nothing they could do to fight it off. People lost everything. They lost their sight. They lost their, you know, their minds. They lost everything. And it was a devastating time that you really had to be a warrior to get through.
Absolutely. I can't tell you what, it's such fun to interview Sandra. I can just put these notes aside because that's exactly where I wanted to go with you.
I mean, we don't, of course, you know, it's right there. It's all right there. And, you know, I think a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus movement, the younger people, I think a lot of them are aware of where we've come from. But, you know, if you haven't lived through it, you don't really know. You know, it's like we don't know what it was like to live through World War II or, you know, World War I. Or I mean, history is funny. You know, you can imagine it, but you can't. If you were there, it's a different set of tools you have to work with. So now as the movement, you know, really unfolds and so much is like, you know, like things are happening now you couldn't imagine 40 years ago. You know, the demand for respect, whether you're just, you know, a gay man, a gay woman, but now for trans and people who are non-binary, however you decide to identify yourself. Now it's like everybody has to respect it and accept it. And that's something we can never have imagined.
Precisely. I mean,
10 years ago.
No, when I came out, we were all gay.
Right.
Then I had to learn the whole LGBTQ plus, you know,
right,
which is fabulous.
The lexicon of the times.
Precisely. And that's been one of many wonderful things that PRISM has been doing. because we are, I'm probably the most senior of the group, but without question, it's been the gift of us journeying together, learning the terms, seeing how they fit in, and being respectful, both in a business sense and in a community sense and in a product sense.
Right.
So the gift of this organization, I can't say enough about.
No, that's tremendous.
No, and we've got them, as I told you, these business related groups in other areas. Now, what I was wanting to ask you about was, what emotional things did you draw upon the most in creating this?
Well, definitely, you know, direct memories of a few of my friends who I lost that I was very, very close to. And, you know, music, everybody like, you know, taps into music.
Yes.
You know, of whatever time it is, to really sort of like, it's visceral. It's, you know, it's the through line music songs through your life. And you know, when we hear a song, we're riding in a car, you think about the first time you heard that song, or some crazy like trip you took, or the first time you went to Paris. You know, everything is very like, it's just visceral. It's the only word. So I drew a lot on that. And to me, it was also to honor the memory of my friends who I lost in subtle ways that, you know, I'm not the kind of person who likes to tell stories and get, I mean, sometimes it seems like you're getting the emotion for you.
Yeah.
And you can never let that person know they're gone, you know? So it's like, it's a funny, fine line between paying tribute to somebody you've lost, but not making it about yourself. And that's, my work has always been that. It's like, you take yourself out of the equation and not make it a maudlin, self sort of, you know, serving experience.
Exactly, allowing that spirit to live through you and being the vehicle.
Yeah.
That is so,
you know, being happy and being celebratory, because even though those people are gone, you know, what you went through with your friends and the great times hopefully overrides the fact that you lost them. I mean,
precisely.
We're all left behind with, you know, presumably good memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that I found about Pose and being our generation, the present situation of COVID for me has been the second pandemic.
It has, and yet I don't feel it's the same, because I feel like AIDS was something that was really like in the shadows.
That's true.
You know, it was, you were a pariah, you were exiled, you were rejected, you were, you know, treated like a you know, leper.
And you certainly got no government help.
And you got no government help. Of course, you know, Ronald Reagan, you know, was completely, you know, anti, you know, gay, and his whole phony machismo. I mean, he was a joke. He couldn't really ride horses, and he couldn't, you know, and he wasn't really a cowboy. He never served in the armed forces. He did, you know, some, oh, never mind. We don't want to.
We're not there.
But anyway, the bottom line is, it cracks me up when you look at people like him, like Trump, who've done really nothing to serve this country, and yet they're going to withhold, you know, support and funding for you know, saving American lives or lives around the world. I mean, that has never made any sense to me.
One of the things that was so powerful to me in the entire series was the concept of the family.
Right.
That was extremely powerful. Now, you know, that's precious to me because we talk a great deal about families of choice, and this is a family of choice. Each of the ERGs are a family of choice. It was wonderful seeing the way in which the trans community, the older ones, literally created houses so that people who had been rejected, people living on the streets, people working the streets, could be embraced and learn love and protection.
Yeah.
And then doing the ballroom scene, of practicing on the runway. I loved that concept. I mean, it exists, yes, it does. And many people, walking the ballroom was the event in their life.
Right.
But as many of the characters, it was the training ground for them to go on into their real life.
Right.
And that was a powerful, powerful part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I wasn't a part of those scenes in
Right.
that world, but I mean, in my real life, I hosted, one of the benefits for, for the ballroom scene. I was around it. I mean, also fascinating because, of course, none of those people would have ever been accepted in that time.
That's
the way the characters imposed, that was part of the story was what if?
Yeah.
What if people had the chance to, fulfill all their dreams and goals as these characters, and now they can.
There are so many scenes that I think of, but I'd be curious to know, what are some of your favorites? Without question, the best writing for you, and we talked of this, is in the third season.
Right.
So if you haven't seen the third season, you want to quickly get it.
Well, if you don't catch it now, they'll all be on Netflix, I don't know when it comes around, but I think you can still catch it on FX right now.
On FX. And I also got it because I wanted it before I was preparing all of this. And I got it through Amazon.
Oh, right. That's
yeah,
right.
I went to Amazon and just.
I know that's sort of another level of the world we're living in. Back when all this was going on, there was no place to see it.
Right.
Unless you actually went to the ballrooms themselves. Until Paris is Burning came out, people didn't know about this. Was all behind the scenes. This was all very underground and very cutting edge and very groovy. And it's very hard to create those kinds of scenes now because everything immediately gets oversaturated and overexposed, like right out of the gate, and then people tire of it and then it's on to the next thing. But back in that time, things were allowed to have a natural flow and evolution, and artists and people could really fully develop, whether it was the gay scene or a musician. There was a different synergy to that time, and I really do miss that. And so of course now you can go and you can see things in multiple platforms.
Exactly. Well, I'm very grateful to Donnie because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have gotten to Pose in the beginning. Well, he knew you and I were at the nail salon, and he said, "You got to watch Pose." And you remember when I came charging in there, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
I had seen you in the neighborhood for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a fixture in the neighborhood.
Well, after 50 years,
Yeah, but you're also you stand out. You're very, distinct, unique person, a person of great taste.
You are so kind.
And articulate.
You see why I love her dearly. And I didn't pay her to say that.
No, and you didn't pay me either, but next time you will. You get one freebie and then everything else is paid for. No, I'm just kidding.
You are so sweet. Now, I want to, before we have to part company, because she and I could chat on forever, but I want to talk just a little bit about the morning. It's very funny. Somebody sent me a clip. Different from others. It was a silent movie in 1919 of a gay relationship.
Wow.
A violinist and a pianist.
Oh.
And it was just absolutely blew me away. And I thought, well, this is very funny because we were talking, really, I was thinking of our conversation being literally Stonewall time on. But we have so much to be thankful to theater for, and movies and Broadway. Because I just made a list of some of them. I mean, beginning with Moonlight, which was a very limited encounter sort of thing. Then Boys in the Band and Maurice, Angels in America, The Birdcage, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Brokeback Mountain, and they go on and on and on. And each of them gave us the ability, to see ourselves. It gave us the ability to feel honored. It gave us presence. And what was so wonderful was that it helped other people to begin to understand what they hadn't understood.
Very, very true.
And when you think of the songs, I mean, this morning I did the Best of Times Is Now to end a hymn program. Well, who would have ever thought one would do that sort of thing? But it's that sort of thing. It's that piece of this and pieces of this, and it becomes acceptance.
Right.
In your career, you have been very much not only in movie and in television, but you've done a lot of one-woman shows and so forth.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit of the reaction and the journey that was yours.
Well, I came to LA in the 70s with, very young and very, ready to just to like explore it all, and again, it was a time when you could do that. You weren't under the watchful eye of social media. So you can make your mistakes, you could trip and get back up and dust yourself off and keep going.
Yes.
And that was the beauty of when I started. So I became a fully realized person, not only emotionally, but as an artist. And I, fortunately, because I know how to tap into that still, I continue to shed my skin and get closer and closer to the essence of who I am, and try to keep my work fresh and reflective of whatever I'm going through, whether it was when I was 19 or, in my 20s, 30s, and on and on. It's like the beauty of getting up and performing is that you fail, you succeed, you fail, you succeed, but you always know who you are in the process.
That could not have been more beautifully said. And it's absolutely the truth. In Pose, I was so thrilled that they used your many talents. I mean, we saw you as an actress. We saw you as an activist. We saw you as someone who was an enormous personal family caregiver. And we saw you as a musician.
Right.
Because you and Patty.
Yeah.
You all sang in
Yeah.
that wonderful.
That was a great
scene.
episode from season 2.
From season 2.
Yeah, the big
Patty at home.
the big AIDS fundraiser.
Exactly.
The hospital did. Yeah, that was magical. Getting to do that and be a part of that as well.
I must admit that brought back a lot of memories to me, because we had done many things like that live, and that was the gift of creating that magic among such horror and sadness.
Yeah.
And yet theater and song brought joy.
No matter what.
That's right. And for that moment, it was okay.
Yes. A balm.
Exactly.
A balm in Gilead.
Hey, now should we sing?
If we had time, we would.
We would. What? Okay, darling.
Right, I'm going to skedaddle.
Yes, I know you have to, but before you do, one quick thing.
Yeah.
What's coming up?
Well, I'm going back on the road. I'm starting to do live shows again. So I'll be at the City Wineries here in New York City on August 31st, Philadelphia September 1st, and Boston September 2nd. So those are my next live dates. And, there are things happening with my acting that I can't talk about until they happen.
Well, let them just come forth and be wonderful. Manifest. Manifest.
From your mouth to
thank you.
The higher power.
The higher power. We love that.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to meet you all.
And thank you all. Thank you, each and every one of you, for what you're doing as a group, as individuals, and thank you, Karen Ignani, for blessing us with leadership like Deborah and Greg Ryder and all of the other ERGs that allow people to be the authentic persons that we are. And we learn so much and give real thanks that it's pieces of you, and pieces of me that put us all back together. Take care. Happy Pride.
You're unbelievable.
I used to take that mic in my hands.
The category is.
And it made me feel alive. Your life matters.
This job is not for the faint of heart. You're a trans woman of color working in a hospital.
I'm just trying to stay afloat.
Is this about your legacy?
No, it's about our legacy.
5, 6, 7, 8.
We rose from the bottom and we became stars. When we walk together, we make a statement.
Amen.
We're just gonna be ourselves, and that's it.
Balls ain't what they used to be. Cash prizes and tacky lip syncs. There used to be the sense of urgency and community, and then folks just started dying.
Deep alone inside.
I knew this disease was gonna eat me alive, but I'm not going out without a fight.
We'll do it together as a family. I'm done running from myself, my destiny. I'm not running no more. Who's with me?
Deb, are you going or?
I was gonna do an introduction, but you know what? I think that video and I think Greg's interview with Sandra really set it up nicely, Karen, especially as he recognized you for your leadership and your encouragement to make the Emblem Health family of companies a place where everyone can be their full self and recognize our diversity and recognize our differences and appreciate those things. That's something you've always supported, and Prism is just so thankful for your support in that regard, and we're so grateful that you took time out of your busy schedule to be part of our Pride Day event again today. So without further ado, Karen, please, everyone, Karen Ignati.
Thank you, Deb. And I'm so happy to have been invited to participate in this event. Greg, you were just born to do this. It was just such an honor and pleasure to watch you introduce Sandra. And in looking at the trailer, I just remembered back to some of those very dark days. I had the pleasure of working with Larry Kramer, who's a founder of ACT UP, and Roger McFarlane, who was, and I know, treasured friends, both of whom were treasured friends of Greg's, but Roger was founder of the Gay Men's Health Crisis. And it just brought those days and that terrible time in the dark back. And as I was thinking this afternoon about how to just make a couple of remarks, I thought to myself, the light bulb went on, and I thought, well, 2 weeks ago, we all embraced a bold statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We pledged that we would stand against discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice of all kind. And today with this Pride event, it just hit me over the head last night that we have a chance to just remind ourselves of that pledge and just silently ask ourselves, and it's fine to ask each other, what are we doing to make that happen and to live those values and to do it together, which I noticed was in the trailer, our part of our values. So today's about, to me, treasuring these moments together, recognizing how far we have come when we can talk about a range of issues in the open and not, behind doors, closed doors, or in the dark. And it's about having fun. And Greg, you set such a marvelous tone with Sandra. I've been such a fan, so I'm completely starstruck. And you did your beautiful job. And I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you, Deb and Greg Ryder, for all that you've done in this arena to bring us together, to just make us remember, but inspire us, encourage us, and to allow us to have a good time. So Greg, right back to you.
Hi, sorry, can you everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So thank you, Karen. It was so great to hear your remarks. Thank you for your leadership here at our family of companies and your commitment to inclusive leadership and support of our employee resource groups and our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. Just to note that this month marks the first year of our DEI Council, and I'm thrilled to be on that with Deb and all of our ERG leaders. So it's really exciting to see the work that that council has done in setting up DEI strategy. And I'm just thrilled to be working with Deb and Greg Johnson. You know, we were together from the very beginning when PRISM was just an idea. We had our start in Greg's living room when we discussed it, and here we are today. So thanks to our PRISM leadership team for guiding us through these 5 years. Our current leadership team comprised of Tim Kelly, Scott Calder, Ashley Hammerth, Lisa Callahan, Kim Lauersdorf, and Jennifer Truscott, who is our very own Crain's New York Business Notable LGBTQ+ Leader of 2021. From that first day, PRISM has successfully harnessed the energy, excitement, and what I call the full, fierce fabulousness of all our employees who want to make a difference for LGBTQ members, patients, employees, and communities. Just a few highlights of PRISM's first 5 years. We did march into NYC Pride marches with our community partner SAGE, and we started out with 4 marchers in our first year and went up to 20 in our second year. We participated in Harlem Pride, Brooklyn Pride, and Staten Island Pride. We gave away water bottles and fans outside the Flatiron ACPNY medical office during the Stonewall 50 Pride March. We've created a best practice for LGBTQ members and patients presentation that we've delivered almost 50 times at our ACPNY medical offices and various departments at Connecticut, WellSpark, and Emblem Health. And just last October, we launched an LGBTQ healthcare coalition led by PRISM members Jennifer Orendorf and Carly Bornkind. The council is comprised of community leaders from the City of New York Office of Labor Relations, National Alliance on Mental Illness of New York City, Community Healthcare Network, and Plaintree Institute at Sun River Health. We've identified some key areas of opportunity that are related to specific healthcare needs, as well as access to specific providers and health plans. And at the end of today's event, we will share a short video from the enterprise, social media, and design teams celebrating and recognizing our LGBTQIA+ employees, as well as our members and social media followers. You can see that there's much to celebrate, but our work is not done, and we continue to have opportunities in our workplaces, in our communities, in our social structures, and in our government. I was thrilled what the comments that we just heard from Karen and from Sandra and from Greg about families of choice and how we work together. Secret folks, I have been known by some people to be an auntie, so I take that mantle proudly. So that's sort of how I create my families of choice. And in Spanish, that's Tia. So if you want to call me Tia, I will respond favorably. And I love Sandra's word, groovy. There comes a to mind to me as I close. There's a line from a favorite song called Light that is part of the standard repertoire of the New York City Gay Men's Chorus. And Our Lady J, at one point, who was mentioned by Sandra, was a member of that chorus. And the line goes like this: we need some light. First of all, we need some light. So all of us are here today bringing you light, bringing you acceptance, bringing you celebration, and if you want, love. Next up is my friend and DEI ally, Renee Karim, who will share a powerful story of a medical pioneer. Happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you, Greg. It is an honor to spend some time with you to celebrate Pride Month. I will be sharing the contents of a letter honoring those who served early AIDS patients by our team member, Greg Pizzo. Stories from the LGBTQ plus communities continue to serve as powerful moments of honesty, bravery, and courage, and shared humanness. To our team member, thank you to our team member, Greg Pizzo, for sharing these touching words. The week of June 7th marked the 40th anniversary of the first case of AIDS. Back then, Greg worked at another company providing healthcare to their members. He worked directly with some young employees who were first diagnosed and eventually passed away soon after. Greg became quite close with a young doctor named Steve. It was a very scary time. There was a great stigma attached to AIDS and HIV. Greg lost a dear friend to the disease. Steve went to medical school and became an ensign, a commissioner in the Navy, as he was assigned to work at Metropolitan Hospital in Manhattan as a young doctor. The circumstances of how Steve contracted AIDS and eventually passed away is not important. What is important to know was his commitment and passion to help people. As you can imagine, when Steve was diagnosed and passed away, his mother was devastated. She was left with the stigma of ignorant people trying to figure out how he got AIDS. There is not a day that goes that Greg does not think of him fondly, all these years later. It gives Greg great comfort to know that he was blessed to have such a good friend in his life. This is a story of caring. Stephen was known for sitting at a patient's bedside while many died alone with no family. Stephen was a remarkable young man who had so much to offer. Yet in his short time helping others, he did his best. I hope you don't mind me sharing this powerful letter that Greg was sharing his story. He wants Steve to be remembered, especially at this time. He still often ponders if Stephen was alive today, what a tremendous impact he would have had on all those who came into his path. As we celebrate Pride Month, it is also fitting to honor and cherish those we lost today and always. I will now turn the programming over to Rafael Cairo, who will discuss LGBTQ plus pioneers in healthcare and media. Rafael is a PRISM member, a proud PRISM member, and a senior benefits analyst. Rafael?
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rafael Cairo, and I'm part of PRISM, and I handle the benefits for the whole enterprise. And I want to bring up into the conversation the pioneers around LGBTQ and that have been like part of the history that keeps happening every day, and activism, key part of this struggle that keeps happening day by day, and little by little we'll get where we need to get. The first person that I would like to highlight is Dr. Fryer, and he was a psychiatrist and an activist. That his role in the LGBTQ history is that he was part of a movement called the Gay PA. That it was their goal was to remove the homosexuality from the DMS book, which is the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, after being in protest for over a year in a conference in 1971. In 1972, in the American Psychiatrists Association meeting, Dr. Henry Anonymous, with a distorted voice and deliberate speech, started his speech saying, "I'm a homosexual and I'm a psychiatrist." highlighting the damaging that is the label that is causing to the patients to be labeled as a disease. A year after, the homosexuality was moved from the DMS-4, lifting the homosexuality as of basically moving it out from a disease to what it is now. This is a multiple-year struggle and a multiple-year strategy that was supported by many other activists. The next activist that I would like to speak about is very well-known lesbian Barbara, architects behind the strategy to remove homosexuality from the DMS-4 DMS book. She organized the New York chapters of the Daughters of Bilitis from 1958 to 1963 and edited the National DOB magazine, the latter, from 1963 to 1966. She worked closely with Frank Kermey in the 60s on the first picket lines that brought attention to the ban on employment to gay people in the largest employer in the US, which was the US government. Her early experiences trying to learn about lesbianism fueled her life and work with libraries. As I previously said, she was involved in the American Library Association and the Gay Caucus to promote and include positive literature about homosexuality in libraries. Her self-described life mission was to tear away shroud of invisibility related to homosexuality, which had been associated with crime and mental illness. As I said, she was part of the movement that helped to remove the homosexuality from the DMS and the American Association of Psychiatry. She was awarded a lifetime membership award by the American Library Association, and the association named an annual award for the best gay or lesbian novel, the Barbara Gittins Award. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance and Defamation GLAAD also named the activist an activist award after her. At her memorial services, the executive director of GLAAD Task Force said, what we owe to Barbara, we owe everything. The next activist and scholar that I would like to speak and highlight is Gloria Andarsua, and is a scholar Chicana in cultural theory and feminist and queer theory. Her book, Borderland, or La Frontera, examines the condition of the women in the Chicano and Latino culture, Chicanos in white American society, and lesbian in the straight world. Andarsua uses a unique blend of 8 languages, 2 variations of English, and 6 Spanish. In many ways, by writing what is known now as Spanglish. The use of her beautiful poetic wording effectively takes the reader into the world of estrangement from every culture she could possibly belong to. And lastly, we're going to highlight Janet Mock. And Janet Mock is a writer, director, producer, and activist that was born in 1983. She has a plethora of highlights, but one of the big move that she had, her first book was the first book written by a trans person who transitioned as a young person. In the author's note, she writes that she's aware of her privilege in writing this book and telling her story. There's no universal women's experience. Her book name is Refining Realness. In 2012, the Sylvia Rivera Law Project gave Mock the Sylvia Rivera Activist Award. Sylvia Rivera, as you all know, was part of the drag queens that were a part of the picket line during the Stonewall Rising in 1969. In February 2015, the American Library Association honored Refining Realness with the Stonewall Book Award, and Mock's book was nominated to the Lambda Literary Award. as a finalist. In 2018, post-premiere on effects, and as Sandra said, it's one of the iconic new trends about trans visibility. She's the writer, director, and producer on the show, and is the first trans woman of color hired as a head writer on a TV series in history. In 2019, she signed a three-year lease with Netflix to give exclusive rights for her TV series and first look option for future film projects. These are like just few of many activists and pioneers that we can highlight, and we can have a whole conversation around them. Let's take a minute to think how each one of them has been seminal to what is now the gay prism under the gay prism and what is to be gay in right now. Without any of these activists, we wouldn't be where we are. And with this, I would segue to our co-leader, our presenter, presente leader, Fanny Green, and is our network contracting specialist for Emblem Health.
Thank you to all the panelists for your participation. It has been a great honor to be in this community with you all. I want to encourage one to commit to being an LGBTQ plus ally every day, even outside of Pride Month. Every space could be made safe for the LGBTQ plus community, and you could be the one to ensure that. I want to share some other PRISM activities to celebrate Pride Month. We would like for you to participate in the Pride Month trivia quiz that's on the eNet for a chance to win a $50 gift card. And we will also like to congratulate Jen Truscott, Senior Vice President and Chief of Operations for the Emblem Health family of companies. Jen was named one of Crain's New York Business Notable LGBTQ plus leaders of 2021. And we will also like to invite you to a virtual happy hour on Zoom hosted by Ashley Hammard tomorrow, June 25th, 4 to 5 p.m. Please RSVP by emailing prism@emblemhealth.com. Thank you all for joining us today, and please enjoy this video as we close, and happy Pride.
Happy Pride.